Hello and welcome to today's webinar on how water utilities can reduce costs through workforce automation. I'm Sharon Parker, Senior Marketing Manager for Clevest, and I'll quickly review a few housekeeping items before we get started. If anyone's having trouble hearing the audio, please send us a message through the chat feature. The phone lines have been muted to reduce background noise, but you can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. And finally, you will receive an email with a recording of today's webinar. Our speaker today is Duncan Long, Clevest Product Manager for Smart City Solutions. Duncan is a certified project management professional and has implemented dozens of mobile workforce management projects of varying sizes. While implementing, Duncan is focused on helping utilities improve their business processes and streamline data flows. The learning objectives for today's webinar are to understand first how to integrate new technologies. This is from moving from manual and paper-based to automated and electric. And it's also on the results being achieved from automating the field activities. And this can include increased communication and collaboration and improved operational accuracy, effectiveness, and efficiencies. So with that, I will turn it over to Duncan to get us started.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sharon, and thank you all for having us. So today we're going to go through the agenda, hopefully to show you a bit of the typical utility challenges that happen in these types of deployments going from paper to electric. We'll show you a bit of a technology review on what we suggest and what we provide. Then we'll look at a case study and some industry survey results. And then we'll look at a little bit at what industry best practices are or our recommendations for making these change. So the first thing, why automate? What's the point? So an automated mobile strategy should drive down the total cost of service and make things more efficient and accurate as we go through entering data from the field and getting back office processes working smoothly. So that's the goal for automation. What are the challenges for typical project work? So we've got data integrity issues for a lot of utilities. This is usually to do with manual processes or fat finger entry, but particularly with paper-based entry, we've got double entry happening in the office and misunderstanding of what was written versus what was actually intended. Partial automation is another big issue where systems aren't integrated thoroughly. And so if a utility has part of their system automated and not another part, you're really getting double entry happening on the back end as well. There's the whole issue of real-time visibility, knowing where vehicles are, knowing where workers are. This is both a safety issue and an operation inefficiency. Technician productivity is another challenge, I guess, but often this is what should a technician in the field be able to produce versus what are they actually producing. And then, of course, there's the non-functioning meters, so lost revenue. And reducing time for repair, so-called mean time to repair here, to less than 48 hours is very important for most utilities. So when we look at what technology we provide for some of these solutions, the Clevest Mobile Workforce Management System really is the mobile side of this workforce. And as you can see, we do a lot of integrations to backend systems. So you can see across the top there, we integrate with customer information systems, outage management systems, GIS, AMI, work management, locates, so that's what the 811 call before you dig type integrations. So we're really covering what happens out in the field, the mobile operations, and how do we get that field operations synced up and coordinated with all these different backend systems. So Clevest as a whole has done integrations across this spectrum. And you can see out in the field, we have everything from meter services to smart grid operations to outage operations to asset management and inspections. And you can see some of the particular items down there. I'll highlight a few. So under meter services, we've got connects, disconnects, reconnects, meter exchanges, collections. And then over on the smart grid side, we have the smart meter installation or exchanges. demand response devices, and so on and so on. So you can even see mutual aid and outage restoration under outages or damage assessments. And then in the asset management and inspections piece, you've got substation inspections and locates, distribution work, and so on. So we really cover the gamut on the mobile side. And I guess the main piece of this slide is to show where the glue that sticks all these host systems together is this mobile workforce management platform. Okay, so in the office, what do we show? So this is really for schedulers or dispatchers. We've got manual assignments and unassignments which can be done. There's also algorithmically optimized assignments. So this would be scheduling work with a scheduling engine. You can also see in the lower right hand of this little graphic there on the monitor, you can see the map with workers and orders, vehicles. This gives you the locational awareness of your field operations. So you can see where people are working, where they are currently, and a distribution of the work across, I guess geospatially across the map that you're working on. You can also see it in reference to your GIS information or your asset infrastructure. We also have in here real-time dashboards and reports to facilitate improved decision making. So in the field, we have quite a few different platforms here. You can just see two on the picture here. We've got a Toughbook and a Samsung. This is where people can receive their orders. And one of the things that kind of is very important is this geospatial awareness out in the hands of the field workers. So they can receive these orders and acknowledge orders, and they can also see, I guess I'm jumping to the end of this slide, but that asset data information. So they can see their geospatial information. They can see where they are on a map, where other nearby vehicles might be on the map, where their order route is, etc. They can also run routing, so they can say, hey, I want to work on these 15 orders right now and give me the best route for it, and it'll take them down and give them a step-by-step. And with this, when they go into those orders, and this is really the value, a huge value proposition, we have workflows that match best practices and safety standards in the industry. So if they're going to do a meter exchange, for example, we actually take them down what we found to be the best practices and safety standards through that intelligent workflow. So this is customizable. We can do a lot there, but we already have a lot that's been done, and we've got the best practices to show what is typically done for these processes and can both improve business processes that utilities have as well as adapt to their specific needs. So let's look at a case study. So we've got a case study here for water waste management, and this was actually a study that was done for Albuquerque Water. So they chose us and moved from paper to our system here. And one of the studies that they did, they got consultants in and looked at their current processes prior to implementing our software and after. So this is a before automation and after automation of their mobile field force management. So their main problems that they had before going in and automating their mobile field force was lost revenue. It was a huge one for them. They noticed that there was a lot of illegally diverted water, a lot of extra driver miles. So that's just massive inefficiencies going across the city 2 or 3 times over a week when they could have done it in one stop if they had been aware of workaround. Low work order numbers completed per day, mainly because of those inefficiencies. And they found that they had a backlog of 3,000 orders, which led to serious customer dissatisfaction, both because they weren't able to make appointments or time frames that they had given customers, but also because they just had this backlog. And that backlog, you have to remember, includes things like turn-ons. So they have customers who can't get turned back on even though they should because of this backlog. There was just too much work for them to be doing manually. So they were able to quantify this and estimated about $5 million in lost revenue between 2012 and 2017. They did have $750,000 lost in 2014 alone. So this was worth investment to them to actually see if they could solve this issue. So the benefits they did achieve after they were able to do the workforce automation, and I guess the previous points that I talked about in terms of being able to geospatially assign order from the office and having the mobile devices out in the field where they can do things. Albuquerque was actually on iPads. We were able to support that for them. This led to really a savings against their assessment. So they were looking at a $5 million loss, and they were able to save that. So driving miles went down by more than half. Work order completions were up over 100%. And their backlog they reduced to less than 50. So that's from 3,000 backlog orders down to less than 50. I mean, massive, massive improvement. And as you can assume or believe, much higher customer satisfaction ratings. They were able to respond much more quickly to turn-ons and a lot of their other work. So locates, for example, was a big part of it. They did full integration with their AMI, GIS, billing, and asset management systems. So for Albuquerque, this was CCB Oracle on the customer service order side, and then Maximo on the asset management side, Esri on the GIS. And we were able to integrate all those things and get that information out to the field. So they were actually able to order materials with Maximo from their handheld in the field. So that was Clevest mobile that was reporting back and coordinating with their asset management tracking system. So very powerful, and I think you can see the results in what they were able to deliver. So this really led to a rapid return on investment. Well, I guess we're repeating a little bit here, but some of the things to highlight. The reason for this was ease of use, operational efficiency. They were able to streamline their maintenance and reduce their overall costs. So one of the things that was very important to them to actually up their customer satisfaction was getting this real-time view in their work orders out in the field as well as in the back office, and having those two synced up was really important. And they were actually able to reduce, I mentioned their turn-ons earlier, but they were able to reduce that to getting turn-ons happening within hours rather than days or weeks. Okay, so let's take a step back and look at the water utility industry survey results. So we had a look at this. It was produced by Water World Magazine, and I believe late 2016, December 2016. And there's some really fascinating pieces in here. I'll just highlight a few. You have across the top there, internally developed solutions is still 65% of the industry, which is very high. Third party is still at around 10%, and everything else is paper-based. So you have an industry ripe for reform here, particularly when you look at some of the reasons down in the bottom left for not implementing. So one I particularly want to highlight is the too expensive. 98% of those reporting why they're not moving to automation is that it's too expensive. And then what's fascinating about this is top reasons for using automation. One of those is reducing overall costs. So 70% report that. And then another one is operational efficiency, 89%. So not only are you getting better quality of data and I guess more customer satisfaction at the end of the day, a lot of this is reducing overall costs, even though the fear is that it's going to be too expensive. So I think that comes from not looking at the whole life cycle and the real loss. So if you go back to the case study we looked at, if a company isn't looking at how much revenue are we going to lose because we don't automate, then they may look at an automation solution and say it looks like it's expensive. But when you look at the whole picture, it actually will save a lot of money in the back end. Or at least that's what we've seen, and that's what you can kind of see here from the survey results as well. So very interesting. I think there's a couple other pieces here that I wanted to highlight. So one that might be applicable is actually in the bottom right, the improved onboarding. So 24% of people did that for automation, and a lot of that is around the workflow, I guess, workflow streamlining and workflow best practices. So what that means is that someone out in the field, a lot of these workflows they're not just single page with a bunch of fields on it. They can actually say, do this step, do that step, beware of this, check this, so that you can actually both train and get data entry at the same time. So there is improved onboarding, and ease of use of the application is a massive player in that, which is one of the reasons Clevest has focused on it so much. Okay, so average results from workforce automation. This it really just reinforces the value proposition. So SLA compliance up 77%. That's remarkable. And I mean, you can just look over some of these. 42% for customer satisfaction, profitability up 35%. So the value proposition is here, particularly when you look at reducing CO2 emissions. Sorry, not particularly, but it's multifaceted. So you have both a reduction from environmental impact to an increase in customer service, so SLA, and then a productivity and profitability increase. So it really is a win-win-win proposition here overall. So now looking at some of the industry trends and best practices, one we've definitely noticed a lot is this desire for cross-platform compatibility. Being able to bring your own device is a concept in the industry to reduce hardware costs. Can we get stuff on smartphone? All of those questions are being asked. We do provide this support for various form factors across all major operating systems, Windows, iOS, and Android. Yeah, there's not too much to say there, but a lot of cool devices out there, some that specialize in, well, I guess, being ruggedized, some that are more powerful and quicker, and yeah, it varies by device, and people want to bring their own. So we've definitely seen that a lot. There's also this tension between self-configuration, customization, or getting something off the shelf. So we do have a configuration tool, which I mentioned briefly early on when I was talking about workflows out in the field, being able to validate the business processes for particular utilities and how those business best practices are generally true, but then you may have different particular fields that need to be captured, or particular safety measures that they need to do, or pictures that they need to take for liability reasons or whatnot. So we have this tool called Genesis, which does this graphical configuration, and it's very rapid, very quick, easy to deploy, and can update mobile workflows in an iterative and I guess without downtime type configuration, which has been massively beneficial to our customers and to our whole implementation department. So when we go in and assess business practices, it's very easy to update those to match. Yeah. Okay, so in summary, workforce automation, why to do it? It simplifies and streamlines field operations. You've got your lower overall cost, significant improvement in efficiencies, both from a fuel perspective to a technician perspective, improved data accuracy, so you can validate entry at the point of entry. So this is actually something I didn't mention earlier, but because we have these workflows where you can put in validations, you're actually validating at the point of entry, which is massive when you start looking at data cleanup on the back end, because it reduces that. So you're not trying to fix a month down the road or days after the data has been entered. It's actually entered as it's being validated as it's being entered, which can reduce a lot of that data warehousing headaches. Then, of course, there's reporting and analysis on the key performance indicators, whether that's a velocity chart of deployment or customer service KPIs. That type of stuff can be reported on, and this whole increase in efficiency does lead to improved customer satisfaction. So about Clevest here a little bit. This is our goal, this is our focus, to do this mobile piece, helping utilities deliver safe, reliable, and superior services. So that all sounds great, but we want to provide value for the utilities, and we want to be both rock solid but also innovative, to be on the edge of what's the best and quickest way that we can get the utilities what they need to manage their workforce. So we do the smart grid operations side as well, and yeah, but our specialty is in optimizing the utility operations out in the field. So here's Clevest by the numbers a little bit. So 180 more than 180 utility customers at this point. I think this slide is pretty accurate, but we've got over 250 interfaces and integrations now, and that's across the board from Oracle to Maximo and beyond. So some SAP integrations happening as well. So a lot being done, a lot still to do, and yeah, we're enjoying it. So I guess I'll pause now. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and if you have any questions, yeah, I think send them in.
Yes, thank you, Duncan. That's a great presentation, and we have had some questions come in. So first up, is the workforce management software installed at the utility, or is it cloud-based?
Yes, great question. So we can do either. So we have on-premise installations or hosted solutions. And different utilities, I've noticed, have different requirements around this. So this is really utility led, and we have followed suit to provide what they need. So if they need it on-premise for security reasons, or they have the IT resources to do it, we do allow that. If they don't have enough IT resources and don't have the requirements for on-premise, we're happy to host as well.
Great, thanks for that. Next up, does the workforce management software work when the field technician is out of coverage or offline?
Yeah, so definitely it does. This is actually something, because our focus is on the mobile side, this is something we solved 10 years ago, a long time ago. It's got to be able to work offline. We have a couple customers. Colorado Springs is a good example, where I think 80%, maybe it was 60, but a huge percent of their service area was not within connectivity. So this seamless online, offline, queue the messages and then resend them when you're connected is really been a foundation stone of our software. So yes, we work offline and seamlessly send stuff back up when you are online. So that when we talk real time, those messages are happening as long as you're within connectivity, and if not, they're being queued, and when you reconnect, we push them up. So
great. And next we have, what mobile devices and operating systems are supported for the workforce management software?
Right, okay, so we do cover all the major operating systems, so Windows, Android, iOS. For different releases, we have different versions that are supported, but we're across the spectrum. So Albuquerque, I think I mentioned, we're on iPad. We've got others on Toughbooks, Panasonic Toughbooks, and some Samsung Android stuff as well. So really across the board, we do have best-of-breed devices that we recommend, but yeah, we work with people on the different, all the different platforms.
Okay, the next one, I think you did touch on it, but I'm not sure if there's something else you want to add here. So how does the software interface with my utilities back office systems?
Okay, right. So this is actually, we can go to varying levels of complexity here, but essentially we have, our Genesis tool can configure interfaces, which is incredibly powerful. So if it's a web service interface, whether it be REST or SOAP, or a flat file integration, we can configure that all within our Genesis tool, which means a developer does not need to touch it for us to integrate with your utility backend systems. Most of them support web services or REST interfaces. If it doesn't, we've also done a lot of direct-to-database and other type integrations but those do require developers. So we're able to do with Genesis incredibly powerful stuff on the integration side. And yeah, hopefully that answers your question, but web services is out of the box.
Great. Okay, we've got time for one more. This looks quite interesting. So can this software be used for contractors as well as our own crews?
Yes. So we have focused on that a bit. So with contractors, typically the concerns are you want them to have access to your system, but you don't want them to see your system. So you want them following the same workflows and the same orders, but you don't want them to have more visibility than what they've been assigned. So we have two offerings here that are really important. So one has always been a core of our application, and it's through business groups. So you can have different business groups for different business units within your organization, and you can define different permission-based roles for those different business units. So with contractors, you can just treat them as a business unit and say they have only read-only access, or they can't even see anything unless it's assigned to them. So that's one structural way we can actually segment them, give them access to all the same stuff, but not give them visibility into your own operations. Another one, which we've developed more recently, is this Clevest automated worker location application. And this is to solve the need where you want to know where your contractors are, but you don't want to outfit them with a full truck and a modem and all the other collateral that goes along with it. So this is actually just an application they can download on their smartphone, and it'll start reporting in location to the MWFM system, so that you can actually see from the office where your contractors are and where they've been and what they're doing. And of course, they can turn that on and off, but it's something where they can choose to report that location so that you can see it.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for questions, but please reach out to Duncan if there's anything further you'd like to discuss. Also wanted to give you a link to get a copy of the white paper with the survey results that Duncan was referring to earlier in the webinar. And it also has the customer case study that he was referencing as well. And then finally, if you want to learn some more about workforce management, we do have some other resources for you here on our website. So here's just a few links that will guide you to these, and it's everything from some product sheets to get more in-depth information to some customer success stories that we're very proud of. So thank you again, Duncan, and thank all of you for attending today's webinar, and wish you all a great day.